My name is Taquan Lee, and on behalf of Los Casamigos, I'm coming back with another video to talk to you guys today about the New World Order with the one world religion from the New Age perspective. Now, I'm going to be talking about the New Age, but then also I'm going to be going into how the Roman Catholic have their own one world religion that they're trying to push as well, that I talk about with the Jesuit videos, but then also with the who's behind the New World Order video as well. I'll talk about how the Catholics have their own little agenda they're pushing as well. Now, I want to talk about this other movement called the Theosophical Society with a lady who is the founder of it named Helena Blavatsky, but then also it's going to be two other people that I'm talking about, Annie Besant and then also Alice A. Bailey. These are three women who play a real big role in what is, taught about in society, whether it's with spiritualism or even with the economic wise, because like I said before in many different videos, Alice A. Bailey, her books are held in the United Nations headquarters. So this is someone that has some type of, achievement, or they have some type of influence with what goes on in the day-to-day lives of society. And her books state much about that, and I have one of her books and plan on continuing to buy more of her books to read to tell you guys about what she talks about. But with saying that, this video right here I want you to show you so that you guys can see for yourselves on who the Theosophical Society is, who Helena Blavatsky is, and what do these people talk about as far as with the coming world order, and also not that, but just the New Age movement, the Theosophical Society, and everything else.
The Theosophical Society. This organization in particular, among others, is largely responsible for the modern New Age movement and the political doctrine known as the New World Order. The founder of this organization was a woman named Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. Born August 12, 1831, Helena Blavatsky was very interested early in her life in the supernatural and the mythological. From 1848 to 1858, Blavatsky would travel the world to ascertain an understanding of the religious traditions of the world. She claimed to have traveled to South America, Egypt, Canada, France, Greece, Mexico, Tibet, India, Germany, and England during this time. It is said that during this travel she learned many mysteries, secrets, and occult knowledge from every walk of life. With all of this new esoteric information in her mind, she moved to New York in 1873. Then in 1875, she formed an occult organization called the Theosophical Society. She founded this society with two men, Colonel Henry Steele Olcott and William Quan Judge. According to Olcott, Theosophy already had thousands of members and branches all over the world by 1885. After New York, Blavatsky and Olcott established the Theosophical headquarters in India, and the membership roster grew increasingly as time went on. Blavatsky's influence came from her writings. Her first book was entitled Isis Unveiled, published in 1877. She started a magazine in 1887 called Lucifer Magazine. Her principal work, The Secret Doctrine, was then published in 1888. She then wrote The Key to Theosophy and The Voice of Silence. These works are now famous, and contained in these writings are the doctrines that helped mold the New Age movement to what it is today. It is said that part of Blavatsky's book, The Secret Doctrine, was channeled to her through an ascended master or highly evolved being called Kuthumi, who spoke to her. Belief in these ascended masters who communicate to humanity is very crucial when studying the New Age. We will look at that doctrine later. The age concept that says humanity is leaving the age of Pisces and entering the golden era or age of Aquarius was popularized by Blavatsky. She taught Theosophists, at any rate, some of them who understand the hidden meaning of the universally expected avatars, messiahs, socioshis, and Christs, know that it is no end of the world, but the consummation of the age, i.e. the close of a cycle, which is now fast approaching. Again, the messianic cycle of the man connected with Pisces. It is a cycle, historical, and not very long, but very occult, lasting about 2,155 solar years. It occurred 2410 and 255 BC. or when the equinox entered into the sign of Ram, and again into that of Pisces. When it enters in a few years the sign of Aquarius, psychologists will have some extra work to do, and the psychic idiosyncrasies of humanity will enter on a great change. These Theosophists teach that Jesus was simply a representation of the age of Pisces, and that he was an initiate into the mystery schools, or cults of spiritual teachers and masters. They teach people that the new age of Aquarius is going to be that of a utopia, where the world unites into a one-world system, the exiting out of Jesus' age, and the entering into a new world teacher's age. They say each age is accompanied by a great world teacher, be it Buddha, Jesus, etc. So for the advent of the age of Aquarius, they claim a new world teacher will guide humanity into it. Blavatsky was reluctant to fuse these theosophic beliefs with politics, however. Nonetheless, she still advocated monism and a one-world brotherhood, or uniting, of mankind. In Blavatsky's book, The Key to Theosophy, she lists three main goals of theosophy: universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, color, or creed, to promote the study of the world's religions, and to investigate the hidden mysteries of nature.
Of Eastern teaching to the West. So she was the major player in the popularization of New Age subjects. She would teach on things like ascended masters, ancient mythology, Hermeticism, Hinduism, mysticism, scientism, astrology, sacred math, esoteric knowledge, chakras, Atlantis, Kabbalah, and every other New Age topic. Between 1887 and 1997, over 2,800 journals were published in the Theosophical magazine she started, called Lucifer. Yes, that's right. The mother of modern spirituality published her journals in her magazine, Lucifer. Now some of you might be like, wait a minute, Lucifer's not Satan. Lucifer is a symbol for enlightenment. He's the light bearer. I'll make another video in the future showing how, in scriptural terms, Lucifer actually is Satan. Lucifer became Satan after he fell. But we don't even have to go there because Helena Blavatsky herself calls Lucifer Satan. In fact, in Volume 2 of her primary work, The Secret Doctrine, she glorifies and praises Satan well over 100 times, calling him the one true God and the savior of humanity. So right now I'm going to read through some quotes that are in Volume 2 of The Secret Doctrine, and I'll include a link to the entire book in the description of this video, so you can go and read these yourself. Satan is the anointed cherub of old. God created Satan, the fairest and wisest of all his creatures in this part of his universe, and made him prince of the world and of the...
Let me go to the website real quick to show you guys what the website says. And it says, Theosophy. We humans know that we could be much more than we ordinarily are. But what is this? What potential do we have that we could develop more fully? And who could tell us what this potential is? There is a body of knowledge that answers these questions and provides theory, practice, and techniques that enable us to free ourselves from the limitations of ordinary life and achieve greater happiness, wisdom, and peace. This knowledge has gone by many names: the ancient wisdom, the perennial philosophy, the wisdom tradition, because it is universally true. It is found all over the world, but it takes many different forms depending upon the time and circumstances and the people it is addressing. I hope you guys really picked up on that, because what is she saying is many different religions go by many different beliefs, many different traditions, but it goes by many different names, but it's all the same thing, universally one. The Bible does not say that, but let me continue. One version of this ancient wisdom in recent times is Theosophy, derived from Greek roots meaning divine wisdom. It is a body of knowledge that tells us about our place in the universe and why the world is the way it is. Although it agrees in many respects, although it agrees in many respects with scientific theories, it goes past them in addressing unseen realities that we all experience, but often don't understand. It answers many questions that we have, such as why am I here? What is the purpose of the universe? Is there a God? Why does there seem to be evil and injustice in the world? How can I have a purposeful and meaningful life? It all sounds questions like the Bible has already answered. Well, let me continue. The Theosophical Society in America has a vision of holiness that inspires a fellowship united in study, meditation, and service, has a mission of encouraging open-minded inquiry into world religions, philosophy, science, and the arts in order to understand the wisdom of the ages, respect the unity of all, and help people explore spiritual self-transformation, has an ethnic holding that our every action, feeling, and thought affect all other beings, and that each of us is capable and responsible for contributing to the benefit of the whole. Now it says, what do Theosophists believe? Ever since its founding in 1875, the Theosophical Society has stood for freedom of thought and respect for all people regardless of race, class, caste, sex, or religion. To join the Theosophical Society, you are required to have no specific beliefs. You need only to state your agreement with the Society's 3 objectives: to form a nucleus of universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, caste, or color; to encourage the comparative study of religion, theosophy, and science; to investigate unexplained laws of nature and the powers latent in humanity. So I don't know if you understand what they just said, but it's all the same that I've shown you in the other videos. Uniting everyone together. They stand for a New World Order.
Your Excellency, are you ready for a New World Order?
I think, Becky, the main problem is, if you think of the technology is 21st century, 22nd century.
Share a determination to create a new world order to better accommodate their own interests, or at least those defined by their presidents, and to reduce US and Western influence. Observers say autocratic leaders from Russia to China to India are united by a belief that it's time to reshape the current world order, which emerged in the aftermath of the Second World War.
Our global economy is undergoing deep transformation. The energy transition, the consequences of COVID, the reshaping of supply chains are all serving as catalytic forces for the economic transformation. And the most critical fragmentation is between those who take a constructive attitude and those who are just bystanders. But the spirit of Davos is positive, is constructive.
There is plenty of evidence that this goal exists.
Pat Robertson has written in a book a few years ago that we should have a world government, but only when the Messiah arrives. He wrote, literally, any attempt to achieve world order before that time must be the work of the devil. Well, join me. I'm glad to sit here at the right hand of Satan.
If you peep the last part, because I'm going to skip the second one. But the third one said to investigate unexplained laws of nature and the powers latent in humanity. Now, if you really understand what she is talking about the spiritual realm. Now, to other people, they may call it spirit guides, they may call them aliens, they may call them reptilians, they may call them by many other different names. But if you are a biblical person, if you are of biblical truth and biblical knowledge, you understand these spiritual beings to be angels and demons, and they're in the spiritual realm. Now, if you understand Adam, before he fell, not only was he an immortal being, but he could see God and angels, everything. When he got cut off from God because of sinning and going against God and disobeying him, he was cut off from God. So there was a veil put in front of his eyes, all of man's eyes. So that way we can't see what goes on in the spiritual, and only the spiritual can see what goes on with us. That's why people talk about this first, second, third, fourth, fifth dimension and all this other stuff, and that these fifth, sixth dimensional beings can see us down here and all this other stuff. They're saying what the Bible says. Exactly what the Bible says. Man cannot see things that are unseen, but you can open and tap into these things like these people talk about. But we're not supposed to do that. God never tells us to do that. Anytime God wanted someone to see something, he allowed it to happen. It wasn't because of what they did. It was because of what God did. These people, they try to tap into things thinking that they're going into some higher state, or that they're tapping into God, or whatever the situation may be. But that's not what you're doing. You're tapping with forces that you don't know about.
According to the New Agers, Theosophists, as well as many elitists and Freemasons, there exists a group of highly evolved men and women called the Masters of Wisdom. These powerful groups claim that Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, and Jesus were all masters of wisdom, and that a being named Maitreya is the leader of these beings, who in turn is subject to the true leader, Sanat Kumara. New Age Theosophist Dane Rudhar concedes that the leader of the Masters, Sanat Kumara, is in fact Satan, according to the esotericists. Quote, Satan is an anagram for Sanat Kumara, who in the esoteric philosophy of India is the Promethean being who gave mankind the fire of self-conscious and independent individual selfhood, unquote. John Michael Greer in the New Encyclopedia of the Occult notes, quote, Satan has a possible echo in Theosophic lore, where the Lord of the world, the spiritual ruler of the earth, and the head of the Great White Lodge is Sanat Kumara, a lord of the flame who descended to earth from Venus in a fiery chariot some 6 million years ago, unquote. Helena Blavatsky taught her students that it is actually Satan who is God, the Messiah, and that Jehovah is the evil one. She stated, quote, It is but natural, even from the dead letter standpoint, to view Satan, the serpent of Genesis, as the real creator and benefactor, the father of spiritual mankind. For it is he who was the harborer of light, bright radiant Lucifer, who opened the eyes of the automation created by Jehovah, as alleged, and he who was the first to whisper, In the day ye eat thereof, ye shall be as Elohim, knowing good and evil, can only be regarded in the light of a savior, an adversary to Jehovah, the personating spirit. He still remains in esoteric truth, the ever-loving messenger, the angel, the seraphim and cherubim, who both knew well and loved still more, and who conferred on us spiritual instead of physical immortality. The Theosophist H. Alexander Fusel seeks to deify Satan, quote, Satan, then, was originally a divine being destined to carry light and life to the netherworlds. He stands for the gift of free will and self-conscious mind to man, a power which at once seduces and uplifts man, for with free will comes the power to go astray. Satan is therefore man's teacher, unquote.
Once you are willing to give worship to Satan is when you are given a certain kind of power that the deceived, those that are just thinking it's them or thinking that something else, can't have access to. So Freemasonry is a systematic way to get people to that level without actually just coming out and saying it right at first.
One of the former leaders of the Theosophical Society, who was contemporary with Blavatsky and Annie Besant, tells us what the 19th century position on Satan is. In his work Spiritualism, Madame Blavatsky, and Theosophy, Rudolf Steiner states, quote, Lucifer is not a being that we can see with our present-day physical eyes. Lucifer can be seen only with the awakened clairvoyance. Seen clairvoyantly, in fact, Lucifer is a particular being who was left behind during the moon phase of evolution, unquote. N. Sri Ram, who often gave lectures at the United Nations, a major theosophist and writer for Lucifer magazine, clarifies, quote, The adversary, or Satan, is no other than Lucifer, the light-bearer, the bright morning star. He is the initiator, awakening the divine faculties of intellect on man. He is the king of the fallen angels, spirits from higher spheres, who descended among primitive mankind of the third race, to develop in man, and endow him with his self-conscious mind, or manus, unquote. To be against the New World Order, yet they advocate the New Age religion, a new utopia, and they all speak against Christianity and the Bible. The people who took over the truth movement and who were allowed to live and teach the public, such as Jordan Maxwell, Michael Tessarion, Peter Joseph, David Icke, and others, all of these people have one unifying factor. They are all strictly against Christianity, and they are all heavily associated with the New Age, Theosophy, and Freemasonry.
I think Jordan Maxwell is somebody who is just deceived. It's my personal opinion, and I could be wrong about this, that Jordan Maxwell is not a paid disinformation agent, or he's not somebody that is a high-level Satanist. I think that Jordan Maxwell is like many of us in the truth movement. We have been deceived by a lot of very clever disinformation. In his case, Blavatsky and the secret doctrine and that whole concept that really got him on a roll. Jordan Maxwell is a person who believes that the entities that he's involved with, that he had experiences with in the desert, etc., were Pleiadians. And I think that he thinks that they chose him to teach the world certain things. So in that context, it's very hard for him, or really anybody, to break free of that paradigm, because in that paradigm he gets to be this super special individual, and we all are vulnerable to that. If we have supernatural experiences where entities tell you that you are the chosen one and that you're going to do something, it's very hard not to believe them, because that's what you want. And so it's very hard, and of course, in doing so, in thinking, okay, these guys, these Pleiadians are on my side, when in actuality they're demons, they would coax him to do certain things, like he mentioned later, to go into these seances or whatever. In doing that, they can have more control over him, because they're demons and they have a system to get more control over a person. And if they do that, then he can start to be used more thoroughly by them, and he can do exactly what he promised them that he would do, to be a channel for them. And that's what his life has been about, being used, despite his probably very good intentions. He has been a tool of the New World Order. And so my view is that Jordan Maxwell's ends up promoting the New World Order. In that particular session, he goes on to say that the New World Order, that a bad time is coming, but that time must come in order for it to be destroyed, to bring the birth of the New World Order. Out of chaos comes order. So he was saying that the old system must be destroyed to come the new system. And that is exactly what the double-headed phoenix rising out of the ashes is all about. The old system of the New World Order is what we see building up all around us. It is going to get really, really bad, but it is going to be destroyed, in a sense, because that faucet is being run by evil. We all know that the things that are happening to the world right now are being done because of evil. So if evil's causing all those things, evil can also turn that faucet off at just the right time in order to make it seem like whoever stopped it, and therefore is the savior. So that new system will seem like the utopia that Jordan Maxwell says we all need to wait for. It's interesting that he says that at that time that's when the aliens, or gods, are coming back to stop it. That's the deception. That's what the people in the have been saying, of the occultists, saying that that's what the demons are going to do for a long time. It's easy to be seduced, especially in Tsarion's case, who was raised since 11 years old saying this is truth. He was raised by Rosicrucians, raised by these people by his own admission. He was doing the tarot cards at the age of 11 by his own biography. This is the example of being raised in a system, being told one thing is true and the other thing is not. It's biased is what it is, but nevertheless, I think in that reason these people deserve our sympathy. One way or the other, they are deceived. Even if they are intentionally doing it, which is possible in the case of Tsarion, and it's possible in the case of Maxwell too, I suppose. Even if they're intentionally doing it, they have to deserve our sympathy and even our prayers, because even if they're intentionally doing it, they're still deceived. But to wrap that up, Blavatsky and everything that came out of that was what 1 Timothy calls the doctrines of demons, and in the last days people will believe. The New Age and all of that was birthed by Blavatsky, and the New Age ideas will be used to bring in this new world order.
A brief history from what the website says about Madame Blavatsky. The Theosophical Society was founded in late 1875 in New York City by Russian noblewoman Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, an American attorney, Colonel Henry Steele Alcott, along with another attorney, William Quan Judge, coincidence, and a number of other individuals in search of the ancient wisdom. Blavatsky was the first Russian woman to be naturalized as an American citizen. As a young woman, she traveled all over the world in search of wisdom about life and the reason of human existence. Eventually, Blavatsky brought the spiritual wisdom of the East and that of the ancient Western mysteries to the modern West, where they were virtually unknown. Her writings became the first exposition of what is today known as modern Theosophy.
And 20th century Freemason and Rosicrucian Arthur Edward Waite admitted that secret societies he was involved with control political, scientific, and religious affairs. Waite believed that these societies always existed in every nation and are connected to modern societies, which I believe can be disputed. But nonetheless, he stated the following in his work, The Real History of the Rosicrucians, quote, "Beneath the broad tide of human history, there flow the stealthy undercurrents of the secret societies, which frequently determine in the depths the changes that take place upon the surface. These societies have existed in all ages and among all nations, and tradition has invariably ascribed to them the possession of important knowledge in the religious, scientific, or political order according to the various character of their pretensions." Unquote. The official Freemasonic Scottish Rite magazine, entitled The New Age magazine, admits that it is for a New World Order, New World Religion, and New Age. Quote, "Great God our King has chosen the great American public schools to pave the way for the new race, the new religion, and the new civilization that is taking place in America. Any mother, father, or guardian who is responsible for the taking away of the freedom of mind, freedom of will, or freedom of spirit is the lowest criminal on earth, because they take away from that child the God-given right to become part of God's great plan in America for the dawn of the new age of the world." 33rd degree Freemason Manly Palmer Hall advocated world government. Quote, "The new Atlantis sets forth an ideal government of the earth. It foretells that day when in the midst of men there shall rise up a vast institution composed of the philosophic elect, an order of illumined men band together for the purpose of investigating the laws of life and the mysteries of the universe. The age of boundaries is closing, and we are approaching a nobler era when nations shall be no more, when the lines of race and caste shall be wiped out, when the whole earth shall be under one order, one government, one administrative body." Unquote.
The International TS has members in almost 70 countries around the world. The society was influential in the creation of many later esoteric movements, a number of which were founded by former TS members. Some notable cases are Dr. Gerard Encassia, if I'm saying his name correctly, Papist, founder of the modern Martinist Order in France; William W. Westcott, co-founder of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn in the UK; Max Heidendel, founder of the Rosicrucian Fellowship in the United States; Alice A. Bailey, founder of the Arcane School; Rudolf Steiner, founder of the International Theosophical Society; the Russian painter Nicholas Roerich and his wife Helena, founders of the Agni Yoga Society; and Guy and Edna Ballard, founders of the I Am movement, among others. Surprising, they call themselves I Am. Yeah, okay. But to skip all of that and all these other people that they name, I want to go to one of the ladies that they named was Alice A. Bailey, and let this video right here give you an introduction, not only to what I'm going to give, but what they say.
Same esoteric organizations have openly stated that they wish to indoctrinate the public with their esoteric religious ideas and externalize their views to humanity, eventually resulting in a new world order for the age of Aquarius, which they all await with anticipation. Let me qualify this. As Theosophy grew, it produced another prominent woman named Alice Bailey, born June 6, 1880. She is one of the most influential Theosophists, and it was her who was responsible for convincing New Agers that humanity needs to make a one-world government and one-world religion for the age of Aquarius. In order to achieve this system, she deemed it necessary to teach humanity the religion of Theosophy and Freemasonry, the same doctrines that Zeitgeist is now spreading. Speaking on the spiritual war between esotericists and people who refuse to accept the New Age, she says, quote, "It will be fought largely with mental weapons and in the world of thought. It will involve also the emotional realm from the standpoint of idealistic fanaticism. This inherent fanaticism will fight against the appearance of the coming world religion and the spread of esotericism. It must not be forgotten that only those souls who are on the probationary path or the path of discipleship will form the nucleus of the coming world religion. There is no question, therefore, that the work to be done in familiarizing the general public with the nature of the mysteries is of paramount importance at this time. When the Great One comes with his disciples and initiates, we shall have the restoration of the mysteries and their exoteric presentation as a consequence of the first initiation." Alice Bailey also reveals that Freemasonry is meant to produce advanced occultists and is in accord with the Theosophical goals. Quote, "The Masonic movement, when it can be, divorced from politics and social end from its present paralyzing condition of inertia, will meet the need of those who can and should wield power. It is the custodian of the law, it is the home of the mysteries and the seat of initiation. It holds in its symbolism the ritual of deity, and the way of salvation is pictorially preserved in its work. The methods of deity are demonstrated in its temples, and under the all-seeing eye, the work can go forward. It is a far more occult organization than can be realized, and it's intended to be the training school for the coming advanced occultists, unquote.
The main source of Zeitgeist is Acharya S. She advocates one world system under the age of Aquarius. This is very interesting as the main source that this traces back to is Alice Bailey. You can trace this to one book in particular called The Externalization of the Hierarchy, which advocates this extensively and even openly admits this in the first few pages of that volume.
In his book, The Arcana of Freemasonry, the Freemason Albert Churchward that Zeitgeist appealed to gave the following admission, quote, "Can the unity of the world be accomplished by Freemasons? Yes, and by Freemasons only." There is a common misconception about Freemasonry, and that is that many people believe it is merely a friendly fraternity where men meet up to network and socialize. This is partially true, but there are elements of Freemasonry that are not so innocent. The Freemasonic Society was infiltrated in the late 18th century by an organization called the Order of the Illuminati. There's a lot of fictional, embellished information about the Illuminati.
You guys, what Wikipedia says about her. Not that you should use Wikipedia, but this is what I'm going to use for the time being. But it says, Alice A. Bailey was a writer of more than 24 books on the Theosophical subjects, and was one of the first writers to use the term New Age. Bailey was born as Alice La Trobe Batman in Manchester, England. She moved to the United States in 1907, where she spent most of her life as a writer and teacher. Bailey's works, written between 1919 and 1949, described a wide-ranging neo-theosophical system of esoteric thought covering such topics as how spirituality relates to the solar system, meditation, healing, spiritual psychology, the destiny of nations, and prescriptions for society in general. She described the majority of her work as having been telepathically dictated to her by a master of wisdom, initially referred to only as the Tibetan or by the initials DK, later identified as Dijwal Kal, if I'm saying the name correctly. But as you can see, not only was she and the lady from the Theosophical Society, Madame Blavatsky, telepathically, they say, brought information on these subjects, but they were tapping into it. It wasn't that just something came to them. These people tapped into these things, and they write writings on how you can do that. But it also goes on to talk about and says her writings bore some similarity to those of Madame Blavatsky and are among the teachings often referred to as the ageless wisdom. Though Bailey's writings differ in some respects to the theosophy of Madame Blavatsky, they have much in common with it. She wrote on religious themes, including Christianity. Though her writings are fundamentally different from many aspects of Christianity or other Orthodox religions, her vision of a unified society included a global spirit of religion different from traditional religious forms, and including the concept of the Age of Aquarius. Now that I've really gone over what she says and about her, let's go on to the third lady I have, which is Annie Besant. And Annie Besant was a British socialist, theosophist, Freemason, women's rights and home rule activist, educationist, and campaigner for Indian nationalism. She was an ardent supporter of both Irish and Indian self-rule. For 50 years, Besant was a public prominent in England of atheism and scientific materialism. Besant's goal was to provide employment, better living conditions, and proper education for the poor. She became a prominent speaker for the National Secular Society, as well as a writer and a close friend of Charles Bradlaugh Laugh. In 1877, they were prosecuted for publishing a book by birth control campaigner Charles Knowlton. But to skip all of that, blah, 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 it goes down to the middle of the paragraph, and it says, In 1890, Besant met Helena Blavatsky, and over the next few years, her interest in the Theosophy grew. Whilst her interest in secular matters waned, she became a member of the Theosophical Society and a prominent lecturer on the subject. Now that I've read all of that to you about Annie Besant, I'm going to let this video explain a little bit more thoroughly about who she is and her works within the Theosophical Society and Freemasonry.
As Theosophy grew, it produced influential figures such as Annie Wood Besant, born October 1st, 1847. She was a Marxist and a socialist. Besant was so inclined towards socialism that she defended it in public debates. One such debate was conducted between her and a man by the name of G.W. Foote, a secularist who supported republicanism. The debate was held at the Hall of Science on February 2nd, 9th, 16th, and 23rd, 1887, a 4-night debate series. The title of the debate was, "Is Socialism Sound?" Angelique Richardson and Chris Willis from the University of London Institute for English Studies, when commenting on Besant's worldview, note, quote, "The socialist feminist Annie Besant joined the Marxist-based Social Democrat Federation, SDF, in the 1880s. Annie Besant met the founder of Theosophy, Helena Blavatsky, in 1890, and she quickly read Blavatsky's material. Besant recorded her first acquaintance with Blavatsky. She wrote, quote, "I was standing with my hand in her firm grip and looking for the first time in this life straight into the eyes of HPB. We rose to go, and for a moment veil lifted, and 2 brilliant, piercing eyes met mine, and with a yearning throb in the voice, 'Oh, my dear Mrs. Besant, if you would only come with us.' I said a commonplace, polite goodbye, and turned away with some inanely courteous and evasive remark. 'Child,' she said to me long afterwards, 'your pride is terrible. You are as proud as Lucifer himself.'" Besant would get involved with the secret society known as Freemasonry. In 1902, she established the International Order of Co-Freemasonry, and then set up lodges all over the world with theosophic underpinnings. Theosophy, Freemasonry, and Marxism are all connected with the New Age movement. Besant would become president of the Theosophical Society in 1908. As I give you the history and lay the framework for the origins of the modern New World Order ideology and the New Age movement, it is important to note the role of Freemasonry. As previously noted, Theosophy and Freemasonry were somewhat affiliated in the late 19th century. In fact, Helena Blavatsky received an honorary degree of Apprentice Companion, Perfect Mistress, Sublime Elect Scotch Lady, from the Rite of Adoption. She was awarded with these titles by the 33rd degree Freemasons John Yarker, M. Kaspari, and A.D. Lowenstock. Here is a reprint of the Masonic certificate that Blavatsky received. There are many different views on the origins of Freemasonry. I will present the one which I feel is the most evidenced and well documented. Modern speculative Freemasonry wasn't officially established until 1717 in London with the founding of the First Grand Lodge. Prior to that, there were Masonic lodges in the late 16th century. You first have operative Masonry involving those who would work with stone and who were part of a stone guild that built cathedrals and buildings in the Middle Ages. Around the 17th century, these operative Masons started accepting people into their craft who were not simply stoneworkers. Soon Masonry was not simply limited to stoneworkers. They then later developed into modern speculative Freemasonry of today, which involves secret handshakes, codes, symbolism, mythology, and legendary. The earliest documentation of the word Freemason is in the calendar of the coroner's rolls of the City of London. This is dated 1378 AD, edited by Reginald Sharp and published in 1913. Commenting on the origins of Freemasonry, Harry Carr remarks, quote, "It developed in Britain out of the building trades and fraternities, whose history goes back some 600 years in England. I do insist, however, that our present-day speculative Freemasonry is directly descended from the operative Masonry, whose beginnings we can trace back to the earliest record of organization among Masons in 1356. As far back as 1917, as modern Masonry was already 200 years old, people were recognizing the connection Freemasonry and Theosophy had. In the 1917 work Heresies Exposed, W. Host remarks, quote, "Freemasonry viewed doctrinally is Theosophy." With respect to the previously mentioned Zeitgeist films and the Zeitgeist movement, I will demonstrate that after a thorough study into these teachings of Theosophy and Freemasonry, it becomes quite clear that this film and movement, which has captivated so many truth seekers, is nothing more than the externalization of Theosophy, Freemasonry, and the New Age to the public. This is important because if it turns out that Zeitgeist is leading people into Theosophical and Freemasonic ideologies, it means that rather than standing against the New World Order One World Government agenda, like the anti-New World Order movement is supposed to be doing, truth seekers are actually associating themselves with ideologies and organizations that are connected to the New World Order, which I will also demonstrate. I will now qualify this hypothesis since I have laid the foundation for Theosophy and Freemasonry. Theosophists and Freemasons, as part of their esoteric doctrine, taught that Jesus was the sun god, the S-U-N in the sky, and that he was based on the age of Pisces within the zodiac. The Marxist Theosophist Annie Besant taught her students, quote, "Then the sun retrograded into Pisces at the time of the birth of Jesus Christ, the Pisces influence being shown by cures performed by stepping into pools of water, Christ choosing his first apostles from fishermen," unquote. Similarly, the founder of Theosophy, Helena Blavatsky, taught, quote, "Ichthus, a fish. Some of his early disciples were fishermen. Pisces, a conventional shape for the fish," unquote. The notorious Freemason Manly Palmer Hall taught, quote, "During the age of Pisces, the fish was the symbol of divinity, and the sun god fed the multitude with 2 small fishes." In another context, Blavatsky reinforces Theosophy's belief about Jesus, quote, "For the salvation of the world, this was the sun, shorn of his golden rays, and crowned with blackened ones, symbolizing this loss as the thorns. Jesus and even Apollonius of Tyana were but epitomizers of the history of the sun." These doctrines are very sacred to Theosophists and Freemasons. The first section of the first film, Zeitgeist, externalizes these same Theosophic and Freemasonic beliefs, fringe views that historians and scholars dismiss. Zeitgeist repeats, quote, "Jesus is the Son of God. Now Jesus is the figure who ushers in the age following Aries, the age of Pisces," unquote.
Now that I've shown you all this information on these 3 prominent women, let me show you the information on what they say about the New Age, this New World Order, and how things are going to be set up.
Alice Bailey, the prominent Theosophist, stated, quote, "The new era is coming. The new ideals, the new civilization, the new modes of life, of education, of religious presentation, and of government are slowly precipitating, and nothing can stop them." N. Sri Ram, a prominent Theosophist and New World Order advocate, stated, quote, "Let us first consider the restoration of the mysteries. It is well known among members of the Co-Masonic movement that its work has been faithfully continued up to the present, and that its number of lodges has steadily increased. I imagine that at such an auspicious time, when the inner and outer worlds will have come much nearer together, some of the great leaders of the hierarchy might take part in the outer work of reconstruction and will then become the recognized leaders of the new world government," unquote.
Now, this was written by Manly P. Hall. Manly P. Hall was both a Grand Master within Freemasonry and he was a Grand Master in the Illuminati. And he says, "All of sincere heart will find consolation in the conviction that powers beyond and above human corruption continue to administer the destiny of the globe. It would be a mistake to confuse the governing bodies with the various sects which pretend to authority but give no indication or proof that they can manage efficiently even their own affairs." Now, Manly P. Hall knows who he's referring to here because he's part of that secret body. But of course, he speaks positively of it.
very clear, yes, there's going to be a one world political, economic, religion, and this is what all the globalists, the elite, the high-level occultists, the high-level New World Order people, this is what they're wanting. This is what the Bible pretty much clearly predicts as well. And this is obviously what we're moving to.
The Freemason and One World Government advocate Zbigniew Brzezinski said the following in his work Between Two Ages, quote, "The technotronic era involves the gradual appearance of a more controlled society. Such a society would be dominated by an elite, unrestrained by traditional values. Soon it will be possible to assert almost continuous surveillance over every citizen and maintain up-to-date complete files containing even the most personal information about the citizen."
I want you guys to hear about what they say about Christianity and how Christianity won't fit in this new age and how it has to be destroyed in order for this new age to be brought in.
Similarly, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the influential New Age guru sought out by the Beatles, stated, quote, "There has not been and there will not be a place for the unfit. The fit will lead, and if the unfit are not coming along, there is no place for them. In the place where light dominates, there is no place for darkness." See, in his thinking, the fit are the New Agers, and the unfit are those who do not adopt the New Age beliefs. People who are, for example, fundamentalist Christians, Jews, people like this. So essentially, you see a lot of intolerance within the New Age movement. It's not all nice and dandy with these people. You know, they have the mask, they have the appearance of peace, love, harmony. But in their writings, they do come out and say that there is no place for Christians and people who do not accept their beliefs. In the Book of Co-Creation, New Age leader Barbara Marx Hubbard states, quote, "Out of the full spectrum of human personality, 1/4 is electing to transcend, 1/4 is resistant to election. They are unattracted by life ever evolving. Now as we approach the quantum shift from creature human to co-creative human, the destructive 1/4 must be eliminated from the social body. Fortunately you, dearly beloveds, are not responsible for this act. We are. We are in charge of God's selection process for planet Earth. He selects, we destroy. We are the riders of the pale horse, death." Alice Bailey explained what the New World Order will do to those who refuse to accept it. Quote, "Let us never forget that it is the life, its purpose, and its directed, intentional destiny that is of importance, and also that when a form proves inadequate, or too diseased, or too crippled for the expression of that purpose, it is, from the point of view of the hierarchy, no disaster when that form has to go. Death is not a disaster to be feared. The work of the destroyer is not really cruel or undesirable. Therefore, there is much destruction permitted by the custodians of the plan, and much evil turned into good." Unquote. Blavatsky's peer, Aleister Crowley, said an Egyptian entity told him Christianity would be destroyed at the advent of the New Age. Quote, "A peer of Blavatsky's, often called the prophet of the New Age, Aleister Crowley, claimed to have been visited in the spring of 1904 by an Egyptian entity called Oase, who foretold to Crowley the end of Christianity." Unquote.
But if you dig deep into the literature, yes, they're going to be extremely intolerant. David Spangler had talked about the Luciferic initiation and these types of things. And we look in the Bible and we can look at like Revelation 13 and where all they that do not receive the mark and the mark of the beast in their right hand or their forehead, you know, are going to essentially forfeit their life. This is how intolerant it's going to become. It's going to be their way or no way. And so, no, they're not going to have any tolerance. I think at first they're going to come as real nice guys, though. I don't think they're going to do that right off the bat. But eventually it's going to get to the point where enough people have bought into it and enough strong delusion is there that, yeah, they're not going to be tolerant whatsoever.
Barbara Marx Hubbard states, "The end of this phase of evolution shall come. All will know their choice. All will be required to choose. All who choose to be natural Christs will be guided from within as to how to proceed. All who choose not to evolve will die off. The kindergarten class of Earth will be over." Unquote. Robert Mueller, previously mentioned, states, quote, I am surprised that no one has yet thought of creating a pro-Earth, humanity-challenging organization which would put itself in the shoes of our Mother Earth and rejoice whenever humans diminish in numbers or consume less. It would give yearly prizes to people, events, or institutions which achieve a reduction of the human population or of the consumption of Earth resources. The first prize should go to the United Nations, which through its World Population Conferences and anti-population work has prevented 2,200,000,000 more people from being born between 1952 and the year 2000.
Now, if you still think at the end of this video that these three women don't hold any weight in what's going on in this world, but not also that their books and everything that was written many years ago is just left in the past or swept under the rug, let me show you how these many different world leaders are coming together, and also not just that, but they're saying that we worship the same God, and how we need to come together and form this bond and unity, which is the same thing that the Theosophical Society was saying, is it not?
Looking upon the leaders right now, the leaders of the international community, the politicians, the lawmakers, and the religious leaders to help us fulfill this goal. Signing this agreement, it may not bring peace immediately, ladies and gentlemen, but what I'd like to say is that it is a step in the right direction, and the youth need your help. So now, we will proceed with the signing ceremony of the Unity of Religion Agreement. The Unity of Religion Agreement is a groundbreaking promise of religions to unite unconditionally and without discrimination to achieve true peace. I would like to call upon the following religious leaders to come up to the stage and join us for the signing of the ceremony of the Unity of Religions Agreement. First, Archbishop Martin de Jesus Barahona to please come up to the stage. Also, a representative of Holiness Sharukirti Panditak Haryavari Aswam Swati Shri Bataraka to come to the stage. Also, from the Islam Shia faith, El Sharif Muhammad Hassan El Armini to come to the stage. From the Hinduism faith, His Holiness Swami Shidananda Saraswatiji Maharaj, the Guru of India.
It was a rare moment. Pope Francis alone, praying. He placed a rose atop the etched names of the 3,000 victims of the 9/11 attacks. His goal? Bringing people together. The Pontiff chose this place to promote worldwide peace. The Pope joined hundreds of leaders of different faiths to talk about healing. Together, he led a prayer of peace for a violent world.
Peace in the hearts of all men and women, and peace among the nations.
He says he witnessed Pope Francis gracefully combining two contrasting passions in his effort to bring all religions together. To bring all religions together.
Jayang verang pasavati
wa ilayka yarja'u salam.
The words may sound different, but the Pope gathered them into one voice for peace.
Papa Francesco, on behalf of this very distinguished group, representatives of the Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, Sikh, Native American, Jewish, Islamic, and Christian communities of New York City, our civic and public officials, and the board of the September 11th Memorial Foundation, I renew to you our welcome and our joy at your visit. Welcome, Holy Father.
We, representatives of the world.
One of the goals of the Congress is to reintroduce the language of reconciliation and peace to a world shattered by conflict and tragedy. It also strives to put religion...
Now that I've shown you that the New Age movement has links to the New World Order, but not just also that, but to heavy spiritualism, because these people do not get their information just from themselves and looking around at things. They tap or they use different techniques to open their minds and open their bodies and selves to these spiritual beings who are no other than demons, and they're getting this information.
Begun.
I think that what Blavatsky wrote down, even by her own admission, was not written by a ascended master, and I don't think that ascended masters exist. She was being deceived. Regardless of what we think, we have to at least believe her and the others involved in the high levels of the Theosophic movement, that what they got, the core levels, their secret doctrine, was given to them by off-world entities. The research becomes, who are these off-world entities? And this is the other part of that research. Is what those entities said true or not? I understand that it's very poetic. It's very easy and seductive to believe, because when you read some of her stuff or some of the other stuff that's written directly from demonic entities, it's extremely seductive. We must understand that these beings are thousands of years older than us, and they're very smart. We're no match for them. The smartest of us are no match for the intellect of them, but their desire is to deceive us. So we are outmatched in this regard. So that's why it's seductive when we read it.
The most current thing that they're doing right now has been since last December, this supposed star sign, which is really, again, they just try to knock off from the Bible as much as they possibly can. This is like a knockoff of the Star of Bethlehem in the Bible. And in that, they're saying that there's going to be these, what they call star-like luminaries in the sky. 4 of them that are in different quadrants of the earth. They're 5 times the size of a football field, according to them. And people are seeing these things, and they've got a whole, up on shareinternational.org, they've got a whole section devoted to this, where people are sending in pictures, those stars, and what they are, spaceships. That's what they're admitting to at this point. And more people are seeing them, but evidently this is going to be the thing that really heralds in Maitreya, up until they have the day of declaration when he makes his public emergence.
And this is supposed to be on the major media?
Yes. When he makes his big debut, what they've said is they've already secured an interview with a major U.S. TV network, and then one in Japan, I believe, as well. So during this time, he's going to, the day of declaration, supposedly he's going to basically telepathically communicate with masses and masses of people. They supposedly will hear them in their own language. They'll be able to comprehend him. Supposedly they'll feel this infinite love. And there will be many also supposed miraculous healings taking place around the world at the same time. And most likely, this day of declaration will come on the heels of some or multiple cataclysmic events, most likely the first thing being an economic meltdown, which is what he's predicted way back from the 90s.
And what does Maitreya promise? What does he want to achieve? What are his goals?
Well, if you look at the word Share International, which is the name of the site, if you read what he says, he wants the world resource sharing of the world. He doesn't want there to be any, supposedly, any inequalities of the world. You look at what he says that he is. He says that he is the Christ that the Christians are expecting, the Messiah the Jews are expecting, the 5th Buddha the Buddhists are expecting, Krishna the Hindus are expecting, and Imam Mahdi that the Muslims. So he's kind of everything rolled up into one. He's like the total package. He's going to give and be able to unite and put all of the various and different religious systems, the major religious systems, all on the same page. And the Bible says that when the Antichrist comes, he's going to come with all lying power, signs, and wonders. And he's going to deceive the whole world by which the miracles that he's going to do. So he's taking credit for every single miracle that's going on right now, whether it's a Marian apparition, which would be to him the ascended master Mary, because he's got a whole band of masters that he's going to be coming with. And so he's taking credit for everything. Every miracle that you're seeing going on in the world right now, whether it's a Catholic miracle, whether it's some type of energizing of the water, whether it's some bleeding statue, whether it's some Hindu miracle, crosses of light, they've seen those in various churches. He's taking credit for all of that. And I think what we're going to see, and what he says we're going to see, in fact, I just read this in their last report, Benjamin Krem has said also with the UFO sightings, he says they're going to increase up until the time when he makes his emergence. And he's going to come on the scene. He's going to be able to explain all of this and try to put everybody on the same page.
My personal belief is that the Antichrist, or the world teacher, will seem to actually be Christ, in the sense that he will seem to destroy some old system and some old bad leader. And I think that it will somehow be tied to, I don't know, this is my guess, but it will somehow be tied to some sort of fake or alien invasion or presence of some sort. I don't know if Maitreya fits all those characteristics, but I wouldn't doubt it for 1 minute if he was. My personal opinion is that Krim is somebody who is being talked to by entities and is doing what he's told to be doing. But you have to understand, a lot of times with people that are channeling entities like that, they oftentimes do and say things that don't come true, because the demons themselves don't know when. They're still on a timeline that they can't tell when something's going to happen. So they're always keeping something ready to happen in case when they finally can. So in the case of that, like if you look at the Blossom Goodchild thing and these ideas that were consistently put out by channeled entities and things, it never came to pass because they don't have control over the timeline. They just have to always be ready.
It's time to wake up, people, and stop being deceived by this nonsense that these people are teaching. But I just want to go into a few Bible verses before I end this. And I want to go into 1 John chapter 3, verse 8, and it says, "Whoever makes a practice of sinning is of the devil, for the devil has been sinning from the beginning. The reason the Son of God appeared was to destroy the works of the devil." It also says in Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the cosmic powers over this present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in heavenly places." It also says in Romans chapter 16, verse 20, "The God of peace will soon crush Satan under your feet. The grace of our Lord Jesus Christ be with you." But we have to realize that Jesus Christ, he is greater than anything in this world. He can defeat any being. I don't care if there is reptilians, aliens, the government creating many different tactics or creating many different robotics and all this other stuff, AI, to try to, enslave us or trap us, whatever the situation might be. We have to realize that God, he is powerful than any of that. Jesus is the boot. Satan and any of his agencies are immediately by default the bug. They're getting squashed. It's no type of competition, nothing that they can do to try to even the odds. When we are on Jesus' side, when we have the Holy Spirit in us, there's nothing that can defeat us, and there is nothing that the devil can do. Don't get me wrong, we will suffer trials and tribulations in this life, but that does not mean that Jesus is going to forsake us or leave us to be by ourselves and alone during these times. I'm going to let you guys off with that note, and that also Jesus Christ, he is king over everything, even the demons. Every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. Stay safe, be safe, read your word. Jesus is coming, people. Get ready.